Hey, folks, this is Ro from the Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, where you know it's always sunny on Scarif, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card podcast. Great pull, kid.
If they don't go for this, we're gonna have to get out of here pretty quick, Chewie.
Everything's gonna be all right, kid.
You found the Rebel Base Card podcast.
She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, kid.
I'm your host, Greg McLaughlin.
Have I made a few bad decisions? Sure.
We talk about cards, collecting Star Wars, and to people in the Star Wars community.
Don't worry, we're gonna meet up with some friends of mine.
Look for special episodes called The Breakfast Pack, talking about your favorite Star Wars shows.
We will never have a better chance than this.
All right, let's get started.
Well, perhaps it is time to begin again.
Welcome back, or if this is your first episode, welcome aboard. My name is Greg McLaughlin, and this is the Rebel Base Card podcast. And this is a special show we are doing from C2E2. I am just on the edge of the show floor after having walked through some of Artist Alley and the Family HQ. I'm actually kind of sitting here, kind of looking at the courtyard where outside it looks like normal, but inside it is absolutely nuts. And for a day that is supposed to be the lighter of the 3 days, I can tell you that year after year, this place gets more and more crowded and very quickly. There was a big difference from the first, 30 minutes to about an hour or so later. So I'm kind of sitting here after talking to a bunch of folks that you're going to hear here on the podcast itself. Now, I've been coming to C2E2 since 2019, and through some lean years as far as the COVID years, but I can tell you it's back in full force, and a lot of folks already kind of looking tired. But there's a lot of show left in today. I'll be trying to pick up a few more interviews, but one of the things that I find when I come here that I look forward to the most is meeting folks, meeting people I know year after year, and seeing some of the artists and just really enjoying myself. It's kind of funny. I'm watching some cosplayers out on the street, and wow, it's got to be certainly different. But there's a lot of great cosplay in here. Like I said, I'm just over at the Family HQ. They've got the 501st, the Mandalorian Mercs, Rebel Legion have got some great displays set up. There's a bunch of droids here as well. A lot of stuff for families to do. And of course, you had the Lord of the Rings panel this morning. Patton Oswalt's going to be here. You've also got the cast of the Breakfast Club that'll be here. They'll be signing autographs. They'll be doing panels. I heard that the Lord of the Rings panel was incredibly hard to get into, and a lot of folks, when we came through the door, just bolted straight up for the main shows. And so I'm going to try to hit a smaller panel later this afternoon. Local comedian Chad the Bird. I'm going to hopefully kind of see that, and then a few more interviews, and then get my show out so you can hear it at home. If you're hearing it now, I made it. Yay! But at any rate, so there's going to be a lot of folks that you hear tonight that you have heard before, especially with Mikey Babensky and, Nick, from CN Factory, Daniel Govar, and we meet some new folks, and can't wait to bring those interviews to you and letting you know where you can find and support them. All right, I'm going to get back onto the show floor, and I'll see you a little bit later.
Hi, this is Femi Taylor. I play Ula in Return of the Jedi, Jabba the Hutt's slave dancer. You're listening to the Rebel Base Card podcast.
So Daniel, what are some of the things you're bringing to the table literally this year, having done this a few times already?
Oh, I've actually done C2E2 every year. It's been a show that has I did the very first C2E2, which was absolutely terrible. No one came. It was like crickets. It was their first year, and they didn't really advertise it, and they just knew they wanted to do a Chicago show. And the next year was amazing. They realized, wow, this is going to be the big show here in Chicago. So, yeah. This year, I'm kind of changed my setup a little bit. I now have like a little menu that people get to choose from. And it makes things a lot easier when people are flipping through. Instead of looking at everything, when you have a crowd of people at your table, you can hand them a menu and they don't feel left out. They can also make decisions while I'm helping someone else out. Commissions, I take only a certain handful of pieces. I've I have so much work lined up over the year. I just got a project with Christopher Paolini with Aragon. So he ran a Kickstarter that was a $1 million Kickstarter, almost $2 million actually. Yeah, for a statue. Yeah, of Saphira, his dragon from his fantasy novel series. And I'm doing rewards for all of these backers. So I have 500 dragons to draw over the course of the year. And I'm about 200 in so far, so I'm on pace. But every morning I wake up and I do a quick breakdown of math. How many per day do I need to do today? You know, if I missed a day, it's like, okay, well now how many per day do I? And I'm at like 1 point something per day.
And I have to say, even for someone who likes dragons, you have to be like going, F it, plaid dragon. I mean, like, how do you get yourself pumped up to do that many dragons?
Oh man, so the first thing I did was I made a model. Like I literally made this like huge scale model of Saphira that I then, like put tinfoil and all these things that would reflect light on. And I made a light box, and I can pose the dragon in different poses and then put lighting in different areas and change that up, so then the model that I'm using as like loose pose reference changes each time. And I don't have to overthink, okay, what pose am I going to do today, and have I done that pose? And just changing the lighting sometimes really alters the figure and how everything looks.
Yeah, plus it's sort of like you have to kind of keep yourself engaged and excited because there can be too much work.
Oh yeah, no, there is such a thing as too much work. Between the 3 Star Wars, I have ongoing Star Wars contracts for Topps. I've got the stuff for Aragon, and then I've also got a fantasy novel series that I'm doing the last omnibus edition for Naomi Novik's Temeraire series, and that one is that needs to come out in the next quarter, basically, is when I need to finish that one up. So I'm not a starving artist. If anything, I cranking back how much work I'm taking on. Conventions are pretty much the only time I'm doing commissions for people at the show, and it keeps me on my toes. It also lets me still stay out there and relevant. It's really hard whenever you don't get a chance to do social media. With a lot of this stuff being under NDAs, I don't get to share as much online. I haven't actually posted online in like 2 months. I haven't been able to. Just not enough time.
But other than table W08, where can people find you online if they want to check out your work? That has been talked about and published.
Yes. I am on Instagram. I would say the best place is probably just going to Instagram. I'll share there first usually. But I'm on all social medias. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on, you name it, I probably am there.
Well, Daniel, it's fun to run into you again, and good luck at this year's C2.
Hey, you too. It's really good. And thanks for the packs, man. I'm loving every time a new one comes out.
This is Mark Mulcaster from Fan for Tracks, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
I got to sneak behind a booth this time, so I'm here at CN Factory with Nick and Candace. If you get one of the swag packs this year, they're on one of the cards, but I wanted to say, a great Spam t-shirt. I am a fan of Spam, but I just wanted to say, you were a last-minute addition to C2. How did you have to pull all this together?
Well, we always actually have a little bit of stock ready to go for every show, but as you mentioned, it's like we're last minute here at the C2E2. So in 2 weeks we had to produce restock a few things. So it was a few late nights, and a whole weekend to work in. But it's we love doing this stuff, and this is it's definitely we do it because we enjoy being here and seeing the people who love our art.
And I think it only works because the two of you work so well together. I love the process. Can you kind of just break it down again for those who kind of forget, like, how do you put these great prints that have a Chicago theme but have a pop culture theme?
Yeah, absolutely. So backing up a little bit, the theme starts because, my Candace and I, we've lived in Chicago for 30 years. We met here And now we live here, we have kids and all that fun stuff. And on top of that, early in our youth, she introduced me to Wizard World, which is an earlier convention, comic book convention that's now called Fan Expo. And at that point, when I saw what Wizard World was, and I realized that Candy was also a fellow nerd, that kind of just clicked with me, and I think it's kind of cemented our relationship. Now, fast forward, we're both art students. I went to the School of the Art Institute for Interior Architecture. She went to Columbia College for graphic design. And we've, through the years of coming here and looking at Artist Alley, we've always thought, there's got to be something we can do together. And, slowly, we just kind of like pieced things together and started, it's like, let's do screen printing. Okay, let's start with artwork. And we just kind of started blending our artwork. We both have great hand drawing skills, and she has obviously graphic design skills. We blended those together, and I love making things, so I taught myself screen printing. So, and through the years, we just kind of like developed the business. We started off being very novice at what we do with 2 or 3 designs. Now we're up to over 20, and some have retired after a limited run of 250. So it's been a lot of fun. It's a great experience. The cons are what we look forward to every year, every summer.
What's something that C2 has that others really don't, other than the square footage?
I am not exactly sure, because we've been to many different, many cons. It just, I can't peg it, because we can go do library cons earlier, the small library cons, and every one is different. Every year, somebody likes a specific print. Sometimes it's just out of the blue, something that's never sold in months becomes popular. And it's the same with C2E2. We just don't, it's really hard. And I think that's kind of probably why it's, the conventions are great. It's always different. There's always a different crowd. And it's really just a lot of fun, the variety of it.
Something I'm thinking while I'm waiting out there in line is, what are the people who are inside here doing before the show? So like the last 30 minutes before the show, is it quiet? Are you guys just sort of like nobody's talking, a little cup of coffee? What's happening right before those doors open?
Oh, it's immediately before, I think it's for a lot of folks it's a relief, because we've 5 minutes prior to sitting the opening, everybody has gotten their setups done, everything's ready to go. But the minutes before that, like let's call it an hour and a half of setting up, it's kind of it's anxiety inducing, because you're just we got to get this stuff up in time by 10 so that we're presentable when the doors open. But it's not as peaceful as you think. 5 minutes before opening.
All right,
it's pretty stressful.
All right, and lastly, because I got to get you back to these waiting fans, is where can people find you online to see some of this work?
Oh yes, the N Factory Chai, Instagram.com. We have Instagram and Facebook social, so feel free to look us up, and we love sharing our artwork with you all.
Thank you once again. Great seeing you.
Yep, appreciate it. Love you, man.
Hi there, this is Dan Zare from Coffee with Kenobi, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
I'm here with Brett Giuliano, and we were both kind of crashing the CN Factory booth, but you came by with something that is truly unique, truly awesome, and also it's kind of something that I've been kind of doing a little more studying about as far as like newspaper strips and stories, as I'm trying to convert old story I wrote to kind of a comic. But give me the elevator pitch for this story, and don't leave out any of the good details.
So I'm Brett Giuliano, the creator of the Dust Bunny Mafia comic strip, which is a newspaper-style comic that's like Looney Tunes meets The Godfather. And what I just handed him was a copy of Based on a True Story Volume 6, where I take real-life mob stories from people like Al Capone, Jimmy Hoffa. I adapt them and give some history about what really happened.
What was your sort of experience with, like, why do it in a newspaper strip style?
I grew up reading, the funny papers, the newspaper comics, and that was my go-to and like introduction to the comic world, and that's really what I honed in on. I always wanted to be an illustrator. Life took another path, but I kept drawing, and when I started working in the real world, I needed a hobby, found that out real quickly, and I started making my first comic, Dust Bunny Mafia, and started out as a web comic, did the 3-panel format for about 10 years, and then I started branching off into different side projects and things like that.
So what's interesting, and I've got artist Mikey Babinski, a Topps artist and comic artist, and that's what I love about C2, but a similar deal, also self-published a book as well, but I think once you get that bug, there's a lot of learns about getting it from digital to book. What were some of the biggest learns for you?
One of the biggest learns obviously is formatting and things like that. Luckily I grew up and worked in a packaging. I worked for a manufacturing company in high school, and so I learned a lot from graphic designers who worked on print products and promotional products, and so that training helped me immensely for laying out my books and being able to package and ship them. I do Kickstarters, I do like 4 or 5 a year, and so I'm able to self-fulfill all of that. But I mean, probably one of the biggest learning curves was like print versus web is another big one. Resolution, file types, all that kind of stuff, and always check your proofs.
Something also I think that Mikey would probably tell me, in coming to a place where you don't have a booth. Mikey, often I'll see him at Joliet Star Wars Day, but I'll see him here as well. You kind of come with books in hand. There is a value to kind of guerrilla marketing and kind of putting, book to hand, as you're kind of doing. Is that kind of the goal for this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, this is the only show that I come to in the area that's as a fan. I mean, I come networking with that in mind. I wear my, t-shirts and different things that are my characters to kind of show that off. And I come with books in hand, stickers, business cards, things like that. And I mean, I spend most of my time in Artist Alley or the writers area and just kind of networking. Otherwise, usually 2 to 3 weekends a month, I'm doing my own shows, and I don't have that time to walk the floor and just kind of hang out as a fan.
And just lastly, so people can find you and I can get you back to doing what you're doing, where can people find you online and find more about this so they can get a book in their hands?
You can find it at dustbunnymafia.com, and I'm on all the social media to search Dust Bunny Mafia. I've been doing it for over 12 years. Search up Dust Bunny Mafia, you'll find it.
Brett, it's a pleasure to run into you, and congratulations, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
This is Jonesy from the Cantina Cast, and you're listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. And Albert wants his tinfoil hat back.
Mikey, what an unexpected treat for me, because I always think of that first C2E2 where you and Carl were together, and all of a sudden, as I was kind of running through, not sure what was going to happen. I was the first time, and then all of a sudden, it felt like old home week, because Carl introduced me to you, and like you were the first one I met in person, first Topps artist I met in person. When you come, you've done these a lot, but I am curious, what do you come to C2E2 for these times? No booth, I'm just enjoying the moment.
I come to see some friends who live far away that I don't see all the time. I text with half of them, but I don't get to see them. And so it's a whole different experience talking in person than it is on a phone or texting.
And for you, in this case, the pressure's off, because when you were at Joliet Star Wars Day, which is usually when I see you, you're on, it is it takes a toll on someone's body. Here, yes, we're walking around, you gotta hydrate, you gotta eat and all that, but there is a pressure off to kind of not be in performance mode, as it were. But all right, give me.
There's no performance. I'm a goofball. If someone is in a good mood and they're goofy, I will goof off. But if someone's very serious, I won't. There are people who don't want to laugh, so.
Well, tell you what, if someone is here, if an artist is here for the first time, or if you're coming here, what are some of the things that you would say, hey, by the way, I think if you're doing this again, you might think about X, Y, and Z?
Honestly, don't go into it with a high expectation. Like, I need to make this much money. You don't. If it's your first show, you don't know what's going to happen. And show to show to show, you don't know. It doesn't make sense most of the time. I've talked to other artists about this who've done it longer, and they're like, you never know when you're going to have that great show. I've got a friend who says that last 30 minutes is the magic hour. That last hour, he says he does like the bulk of his sales, because everybody's cleaning up, and he stays steady. And he's like, that last hour, last half an hour, he says he does better than he did like the 2 hours before, 3 hours before. And so I would say lower expectations, be realistic, try to have fun. Because if you're too serious, take it too seriously, you won't have fun and might discourage you. A bad show might discourage you. But if you want to get a product out there, you can make a website, but at a show where you can interact with people, you will connect and check out my website. Here's my website, here's a QR code. It gives all my social media information. Even when you're walking around, if you strike up a conversation with an artist you like and talk shop, and they'll be like, oh, I'm on Instagram. I teach, or I do this, and you can learn a lot. There's only so much you can learn self-taught. Even with YouTube videos, you can't really get that one-on-one interaction. So seek out people that you admire, seek out people in Artist Alley who you've never heard of, but you like the look of their art. Learn. You'll get better. It's really the only way to really improve. But yeah, have fun. No high expectations. I've seen people that on the last day who haven't sold like their book so much will just hand them out. They just want them out there. They didn't come to try. There's no one's going to make it overnight, kind of a thing. And if you can get it out there, a few more copies out there. If you're talking to someone, here, take the book. Take the book. If you know you have a surplus, it's more to pack up. So yeah.
And so as someone who is kind of like coming to Artist Alley, kind of looking to maybe shop, maybe pick up some original art for an attendee, what are some of your best tells and advice as far as how to work in Artist Alley if you're kind of new to it or you're trying to support somebody?
It depends on what you're looking for. For me as an artist, I'm looking for shop talk. I'm looking for process. I'm trying to understand how other people do it. It might give me inspiration because my techniques have changed. And you know this from my Topps cards. You look at any set I did, I don't repeat the style.
Right.
I do a different style every time. And I'm learning. I did a couple that were garbage. Like, I can't even look at a couple sets. They are just... I learned it from her way too long ago, that if she has a card she doesn't like, she paints it over black, and she doesn't count it as a card to get paid for. She just doesn't want it out there, and I wish I'd have done that. I have cards out there that are horrendous.
And her being who?
Ashley Popplewell. She's the one who pretty much got me into sketch cards. And and today she has blue hair.
Which is awesome. All right, and so you're like me, you're only here for the day, but outside of you say you'll probably be here the whole day, but is there anything else you're kind of maybe interested in or just kind of like going to poke your head at?
Yeah, I'm not here to buy anything, but I've expanded just out of Artist Alley. I found a few people in booths that I know, and so people I've worked with, so it's nice to catch up when I only know them through text or email. Right. And it's cool. This one guy I haven't seen in 4 or 5 years, he recognized me right off the bat. So it's like, yep, we worked together, we've hung out at shows. So, it's fun to catch up. That's mostly what this show is for me, C2E2, is I've set up here 3 times, but I'd rather walk around because I've had friends from Florida that I don't see, and she's from Las Vegas. She lived in Alaska, so it's like a while ago. But so it's like being able to actually kind of just hang out for those 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and then I'll go back and I'll talk to her, especially when I leave. I'll make the rounds and I'll say bye to people. But it's nice to see people that I used to hang out with or would see at shows every year. So it's that's the draw for me.
And then lastly, are you going to be at Joliet?
Oh yeah, I plan to. Yeah. Definitely, I have to be there.
All right. And lastly, if you have an online presence, if people want to see some of your work, even if it's been out there for a while, it's still your work.
Yeah.
Where can they find you?
Instagram is pretty much my only one. Mikey Babinski. And I have a lot of my art on there, but I haven't posted on it in a long time. But if you scroll back, you'll see process videos and sketch covers and commissions and Star Wars art and prop culture art, Avengers, things like that. But that's, Mikey Babinski on Instagram.
Mikey, great to run into you again, and enjoy the rest of your show.
You too. Have fun.
Hello, this is Dennis.
And this is Jay, and we're from Podcast Stardust.
You're listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast.
Great pull, kid.
Once again, it's all about the stormtroopers, and I think that's where you get your in. And I'm here once again, Todd Hoffman. He's got his sand trooper on that's weathered. And now the weathering has been weathered a couple of years.
Yeah.
After the fact, now that we've gotten this far, how do you still feel about what you did to your suit?
Oh, I love it, yeah, because there's a lot of upkeep to keep it nice and clean, but once you go dirty, you don't have to do that too much, so it's great. I love it, actually. It's fun, and you kind of stick out a little bit, so I enjoy doing that part of it.
So as I sat in traffic for about an hour and 20 minutes today, but who's counting really, I started thinking about all the cool 501st people that probably had a head start on me. The experience for you getting in has to be a little different than for the average Joe who's showing up and trying to fight for space.
Yeah, there is a little bit of perks being the 501st. You get to get in a little bit early, but, avoid the nerd herd, if you will. But other than that, it's just fun getting suited up and getting a head start as the crowd comes in, which is fun.
You have seen each and every C2, and as we kind of have been kind of following you on Big T and Little T and WSTR, this con has a special place in your heart. You didn't even like when Celebration and C2 were kind of overlapping. You're like, hey, I've still got to get it to my C2, but how does it feel like once C2 opens its doors and things begin?
Yeah, we've been counting down, Trent and I have been counting down. C2E2 is very special. Trent's, 12, but he only missed one, and he's very bitter about that. But, he had his tonsils removed, But for me, I've been here since the beginning, and so became, starting as a fan and now coming into like the 501st, it's really rewarding, and I just like to give back, which is so fun. I love making smiles, that's what it's all about.
And so this morning, how do you feel about the crowd so far? We're only a couple hours in, but I could definitely feel a difference between 10:30 and nearly 12:30. It just seems like each year, even the slow days are getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, Fridays usually does not pick up till after 3 on Fridays because most people take a half a day or whatever. But the crowd seems to be pretty good right now. Gauging, to me, that means it's going to be pretty packed on Saturday, brother. So, but I think so far, a lot of movement, a lot of good crowds, and I know a ton of people, because Trent's there at the Lord of the Rings panel, and there's going to be a ton of people coming back from that big one. So I feel like it's going to really fill up here as we progress throughout the day.
What some people might not know is you get to actually come in on Thursday and help set up. What is that process like, and is it just kind of like your own private con?
Well, you kind of see how the sausage is made a little bit. So, for the privilege, basically all the vendors get to drive the cars in, unload, and then load off. And we really spent the day of just building all we have an Endor set here with the speeder bike, so we had to put the speeder bike together, have the action figure one that you have to put together, and then the big one that we have is the Rogue One tunnel from the Carillion Corvette. So that is pretty special as well. So yeah, it just takes a long time to set up, as everything does, and so you just, a lot of material to push in and just make sure it's all good, because once you can't do it all in the beginning of Friday, so it helps kind of get everything set up,
So once you're done, you're done trooping, you get to kind of the morning shift, and you let that beard fly freely. Because I don't even want to ask you where you keep the beard while you're doing this. I don't want to know. But what are some of the things you're looking forward to do today and this weekend?
Yeah, so today we have a photo op with Andy Serkis. Nice. So we're super excited for that. And then Trent is debuting his Gonk droid today. So we're super excited to do that today. So that's going to be fun. And then really, the rest of the weekend, hassle-free, and, it's going to be fun just hanging out and doing a little trooping and checking out all the merch and everything else that's here, at C2. So.
All right, and lastly, just so people can find you and maybe find out more about the 501st Online, where can they find all the places you're in?
Yes. Okay, so for Big T, Little T, it's Big T, Little T Podcast on the old Instagram. And then for WSTR, we're coming up to our 400th episode, and that's WSTR Media. So you can find me there. And then if you want to find me personally, Tizod, TI4ZOD. Yeah, that's where you can find me on.
All right, Todd, once again,
Yeah,
nice
great.
running into you again, and keep the faith.
I'm sporting your cards today, I got 2 cards from Greg, so I'm super excited. And it's a lot of fun. So,
hi, this is Todd, aka Big T, and
Little T, Trent.
And you are listening to Rebel Base Card Podcast.
Great pull, kid.
We did it.
Yes.
See, that wasn't too bad.
No.
And we were just talking about that, Arturo. It's great to bump into you again because the last time we got to see the Acolyte premiere and have a bunch of goodies and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
At the end of the day, how was that experience for you?
It was amazing. I love being surrounded with fans that are there for the same thing. And what a good way to do a show like Lucasfilm to provide that for us, for fans, so we could be all together and be at that moment.
When you're coming to a show like C2, I take it that you guys are not, this is not your first rodeo.
No, it's probably like a 20,000th rodeo probably. We've been doing this for a long time, especially me. I've been doing it since 1997, conventions like this. So what I love about conventions is not just costuming or what's going on here, but hanging out with friends, spend time with people you know for a long time, and just what we do after hours, just spend time together and just reminisce and just live life and enjoy everything that these conventions give us.
And speaking of friends, one just kind of slipped this cool 501st bracelet on. Can we talk a little bit about the decision to make them and what goes into it?
Yeah, well, my friends from California, Katia and Isa, they started making bracelets and just giving them out to people in costume at WonderCon. And so I was like, that's such a cool idea. Do you guys mind if I kind of do that too? And it's really blossomed into this bigger thing. And so I made them for conventions, obviously, mainly Star Wars ones, different popular characters. I'll make them for concerts. Just something that I think is fun because people put so much work and effort into these costumes. It's fun to give something back to them and show appreciation. And especially if it's a character that not a lot of people actually do costumes for, it's so fun to see them light up because it's like, oh, somebody recognized what I am. And I love that. I love that moment. It's so much fun.
And it is kind of a carryover like I saw from Celebration, where when I went to my first one in Chicago, I didn't realize there was this whole culture of like trading like swag and so forth. So I love that we're kind of bringing that into a little bit of C2, and then you kind of go home going, hey, I gave away stuff, but I got so much more back.
Exactly. Yes, just that emotional exchange is so much fun, and it gives me something to do with my hands, and it's fun to look at characters and their costumes and kind of be like, okay, I have this color of bead and this color of bead, and I can make different things. And especially for the 501st, I made a whole bunch of 501st bracelets to give to you guys because all the work that everybody does is just, it's fantastic. It's a fun way to give back in my own sort of creative way.
For me, Family HQ is kind of a home base. As a Star Wars fan, we're in here, but when you're coming to a place like this, what does the Family HQ mean to someone like yourself?
I think it's just like-minded people with similar costumes, and I think just coming here gives you ideas and motivates you then to work on a new costume, or gives you ideas to create a new character. And so it's fun to come and see everything that they have going here, some of the new displays and some of the new items that you can participate in, and it's enjoyable to see everybody's reaction, not only your own, but people who come to visit and get to participate and take photos and photo ops and stuff. So I not only get enjoyment wearing costumes myself, but seeing the reaction of other people when they come, especially to areas like this, and see everything that's here and on display and that they can participate in.
One of the nice things about, like, since C2 appeals to a broad range of genres, as Star Wars we're kind of more insulated, but it is kind of fun to see civilians kind of coming in and getting that exposure to someone like, if you're doing Django, which one do you?
I do Short Trooper and Stormtrooper. I have a McCormick Stormtrooper, so that's like a concept Stormtrooper.
Do you do any yourself?
Yeah, I'm actually unveiling my custom Mandalorian today. So it'll be my very first time wearing it. My wonderful boyfriend Arturo helped me so much throughout the whole process. He has lots of knowledge and skills, especially with sewing and leather work. And so I'm very excited to show off kind of the fruits of our labor today.
You know, it's also something, it's like, not only did the 501st get in here, they didn't have to suffer a lot of the traffic that some of us did, but when you're here and you're trooping, now it's different than if you're doing something for like at a hospital or you're doing that. Here it's the pressure, I would say, is off of like, all right, I'm not going to see this little kid, but what is it kind of like, the reactions that you get that, you know, when you see kids and stuff, they're going, they've never seen before?
You know, like you were saying about the hospital events, those are, other than here, so the difference is, so here, kids come up to you, they hug you, they want their favorite character. So yeah, it's a lot less pressure and you don't have so many feelings involved. You're just happy to make this kid happy. When we do those other hospital events, Make-A-Wish, kids dying, they give them their free tickets, those are the ones you don't forget. And that stays with us. A lot of times the bucket, there's tears under those buckets that the kids don't see. You know, so I remember a little kid named Jake. We did an event called Peds in the Weeds, and he had cancer. He would run up to me and hug my leg, and he would run off, and he'd come up and hug my leg, and I'm like, hey, kid. He's like, you're my favorite stormtrooper. So I was crying under the helmet, and he had his little hat on because he was bald from getting chemotherapy. And I always say, 26 years later, as we've been trooping a long time, that is why I still do it, because of Jake. So that's the reason we still stay with it. So the cons are for fun, making kids happy, but for mostly, it's Jake. Kids like Jake. Yeah.
So if someone's on the outside, right, and they're listening to this and they want to support the 501st, but maybe they don't have a con in their area, are there places they can go online to either support the mission overall or the charities that you guys do so well?
Well, you know what? They can go online to 501stlegion.com and they can look up the garrison in their state or their country, and they can see what we're doing. If they have an event they would like troopers in, they would go on there and they could actually put it on our events board. Events, and then we pick if we can do the events. We do over 300 events a year, and sometimes we can't cover everybody. So we hate when that happens, but a lot of people have their careers, their jobs they have to do. So the hardest events are during the week. Weekends are a little easier. But during the week, if you're working, you can't do the event. But we always tell them, if you have a charity event you want to do, or if you want to donate to a charity event in our name, you can. Midwest Garrison or 501st Legion to that charity. So.
And just lastly, I want to give everybody's names here before I let you all go back. So starting from my left to your right.
Arturo Delgado.
And where can they find you online?
Arturo Seekert and Instagram.
Awesome. And yourself?
And Javier Escueda, TK265. And I go on Facebook as Joliet Batman. And on Instagram and TikTok, I'm usually Trooper265 and also Joliet Batman.
And yourself, sir?
Sean Micah. I'm on Instagram as Fetzicle, Fettcicle.
And yourself?
I'm Kira Machado, and you can find me on Instagram at Kira_Karabast.
I want to thank you all, and good luck, and thank you for the work you do.
Absolutely, thank you.
Hi, this is Colby Mead from the Colby Cast, and you're listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
I know it's weird that I'm asking Princess Leia about a Lord of the Rings panel, but you can honestly say I didn't see it, but I'm seeing the face. All right, Nicole, Princess Leia, tell me about how you were trying to get into the panel and what happened.
You know, this morning was a little chaotic when I got here. I got here, I was already in by a few minutes after 10 and went straight upstairs. The whole area was crowded with Lord of the Rings fans. Everything was full. Main event was full. The overflow was full. I admit, C2E2, if you're listening to this, and I hope you are, you're going to have to work on that one. I did feel a little bit for people who were trying to get through, because that was chaotic up there. It was chaos. I have a photo, and I'm like, nobody could really get through. But it's okay. It's all right. You know, for those who got to see it, I'm glad that they got to enjoy it. So, yeah.
I also noticed, because when everybody was kind of making their way through the main entrance, a large contingent broke off to their left. I'm assuming that that's what they were going for.
Yes, it was all to the left. And at some point, they finally pushed us towards the window, but then you still had people coming down towards, so it was just breaking it up even worse. So, it's all right.
So how does Princess Leia kind of console herself? What's going to be on the docket for the rest of today?
Well, Princess Leia is consoling herself with blasters, artwork, and I think some pizza later with some friends at the local cantina.
Yeah, I always prefer local cantina prices over downtown, over expensive C2 merch, but that's just me. But the other thing is that you're cosplaying, but I'm kind of curious, what are some of the reactions? What are some of the things? You know, you've been here as someone who didn't cosplay, you've been here. What is it like when you come out, and especially being Princess Leia?
Well, actually, right before we started having our conversation here, someone really nicely actually gave me a Leia bracelet, and that was really awesome. I met another slave Leia who literally, I all said, Leia, and I'm looking around like, is she talking to me? And all of a sudden she comes up and she gave me like this 4-leaf clover, and we took photos. It was really fun. So it was a nice gesture she did. So it's really fun.
And any kids kind of come up and just kind of point or look, or they want pictures?
Not yet. It's actually been adults so far today. So I'm waiting. It'll happen. If it happens, it happens. So.
What are some of the other things you're going to be doing? Your hands are full at the moment, but C2 is really just kind of kicked off. I mean, we're into hour 3, but what does the rest of your day look like?
Well, hopefully I will just continue. Today is really about enjoying and looking around, kind of getting an idea since I'll be here all weekend. Although I hear maybe an Ewok's coming tomorrow instead of Leia. So today's kind of finding out the lay of the land, looking at everything, enjoying Family Central. This is one of my favorite areas. They have amazing props, and I love it.
And as far as what you kind of been doing, I know that you're a creator on the side, on the sly as it were. What's happening in your neck of the woods?
Oh my gosh. I've been running our Red 5 reading book club, and Timothy Zahn is here. I do hope to meet him over the weekend. And I've just been busy with the book club, and I'm so excited because Star Wars Celebration's coming up, and they made some big announcements the other day, and book club is all on it. They already let's read it. So I'm really excited. Masters of Evil, by the way, that's what I meant. The book is Masters of Evil that's coming out. So I'm excited for that. I'm very excited. And busy with On the Fives, creating content, doing actually an interesting series about Once Upon a Fairy Tale, kind of doing the book version, the real fairy tales versus the Disney. Yeah, we're getting deep. I'm getting deep. The dates and everything. I'm having fun with it.
And so people can find you online. Where should you send them?
All right. Well, my name is Nicole. I am a Peace Love Fandoms on Instagram as well as X, formerly known as Twitter. But I also run the Red 5 Reading Book Club on X as well. You can find us there.
Nicole, good to run into you, and it won't be the first time this weekend. I'm sure I'm going to run into you again, but congratulations on what you're doing, and enjoy the rest of your C2.
Oh, well, thank you so very much. It's been good hanging out, Greg.
Hello there. This is Greg Cass at Ion Cannon, and you're listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
Now, I'm sure like many of you, you have been to your number of cons. You have your own set strategies and things like that. But as far as like a C2, there are a few things that I would suggest, and this comes from my experience today. The first one is that traffic. Now, I left very early this morning, but I can tell you it was about an hour and 20 minutes to get down here. And that is in decent traffic. And one thing, if you are coming down in Chicago, there is always construction. There was construction on the Kennedy, and that is 90 and 94. So whether you're coming up from the south, you're coming in from the west, you're coming in from the north, you're going to run into that traffic. And McCormick Place is kind of off. I get off of the Kennedy, and I do this little button hook on 55, and it's great because I am going for Lot A. Lot A, there are a number of lots here, but it is close to where C2E2 is in the McCormick Plaza complex. But if you get here too late, then those lots fill up. And then you're going to have to do one of these spillover lots and have to deal with the shuttle and all that. And I just rather not deal with that at all. So I try to get down here super early. The one thing I just brought with me as I was looking over some other audio is definitely bring some water. I brought a water bottle, which I didn't realize I needed until I actually got into it. I'm like, this is the best thing ever. So, and especially since I'll be talking and I'll be interviewing folks, my voice is going to go. I can already feel the strain. So plenty of water. I also kind of bring some snacks along as well because the food here can be a little pricey, can be a little like, I mean, it's good, but it could be greasy and so forth. So it is kind of important to kind of like bring a little something to munch on, whether it's a granola bar or like, you know, like a power bar or something like that, a piece of fruit or something. And in that way you can kind of make it through because like for me, I might have dinner plans later, but you know, I want to make sure I have enough energy for the rest of the day when I actually get around to kind of enjoying myself. But yeah, and just be wary that, you know, like as far as like parking and everything else, there is an expense to it. So you may want to make sure to budget yourself because you might be an artist alley or one of those vendor halls and you might see something you want. So pack a little extra cash, give yourself a budget, but give yourself a little leeway either way. And you might just want to kind of do a show floor, you know, check out some things early before you go down because you may just blow all your money at the first booth you find, and it's happened. But anyway, and then just give yourself breaks. Like it's nice. I'm over here on the edge of the show floor, and it's kind of nice. Other people here are just kind of like maybe because it's a little overwhelming. You know, a lot of stimulus here, so you can kind of like gather yourself for a group and go back because you could just kind of get caught up and then not realize just how tired you are. Because you want to make sure, this is like a day at Disneyland, you want to make sure to get through that whole day. And even the folks who are trooping, like Todd Hoffman, I just saw them, you know, he only does it for a few hours and then he can kind of go do the rest. And so some of those guys, they get their trooping done early and they go in shifts and they even have a little section off to the side where they can kind of change. So those are kind of the things that I would say to make your experience the best. Prepare for lines, prepare for waiting, give yourself extra time to get here, pack a little bit of, you know, food and drink. You know, schedule yourself some time to kind of relax and enjoy because you want to get the thing that you got here home and you want to get yourself home. All right, let's get back to it with more interviews and more from the show floor here at C2E2.
Hi there, this is Anthony from Force Ghost Conversations, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
I knew if I ran into enough people here, I'd find out about this Lord of the Rings panel. And normally, you know, I see you when we go to the Chicago Non-Sport card show at Looky here.
Thank you.
But I'm also curious, how was the Lord of the Rings panel for now?
The Lord of the Rings panel was amazing. And you had your hobbits, Elijah Wood, Sean Astin, Dominic Monaghan, Boyd, John Rhys Davies, and then, of course, Andy Serkis. And it was amazing. And the stories they brought, and they are friends. And their interaction is hysterical, what they do together. So my wife and I, we loved it. That time went, I did not feel like a little over an hour. It was like, oh, we're leaving now. Okay, you know.
And it felt odd because it was going to be first thing, and so, you know, when I was going through the entrance, a lot of people were peeling off, and I was like, oh, I guess that's where they're going.
Yes.
But, you know, I don't think of those like super huge panels at C2. I don't. But it seems like with that in the Breakfast Club, it's like, wait a minute, am I just aging into the right group, or am I aging out of the wrong group?
I have to agree because the first time we went was a couple years back. And we saw Zachary Levi, and then it was like, oh, this is something. Then they had some of the supernatural people, and we're like, well, yeah, you're right. We never really did panels, and now it's like we're aging into, oh, I can sit for about an hour. I don't have to stand in a line, and I can listen and watch and interact. You know, like with Christopher Lloyd, when we saw Christopher Lloyd and everything, which I knew we had to go to that one. Because how much longer is he going to be here?
Right.
So I knew that one we had to go to. So it's just, I think I have to agree with you there. We're aging into it now, where it's like panels are going to be it. You know, not wandering the hall much anymore because, you know, I think this is the 17th year of C2E2. And we've been coming since the first one.
Wow.
And I still regret one thing.
What is
the
that?
very first C2E2. They were promoting the Thor movie, and Chris Hemsworth was here. He was signing autographs, and my lovely wife, Celeste, said, would you like to get one? And I looked at her and said, no, $50 is too much. Yes, everyone, the collective groan can be heard for miles.
Oh my God. Well, you know something a little about pricing autographs, and I would say that both of you look so much slimmer because you're not surrounded by a table full of boxes and cards and so forth. How does it feel like when you come to a con and you're like, hey, we don't have to pack the car for 3 hours?
Oh, we love it. Because back in the day, before I did the small card shows, from 94 to 2007, as a hobby, we did the big Chicago Comic-Con in Rosemont, the Wizard World one, every year. When our kids were little, and we loaded up vans, and I had 2 10-foot tables and booths, and it was crazy. In the first year, we didn't do that and came to one of these just to roam around. It is freedom. it really, it's like, this is nice, you know? I like it.
Well, Celeste, you know, I would say I'm very happy for you, but you do have a stack of things. Can you talk about what you're doing today and this guerrilla marketing campaign, which I am completely on board for?
Okay, what we're doing is we are advertising for the Chicago Non-Sports Card and TCG show, which is taking place April 25th and 26th in Carroll Stream at the Holiday Inn.
April.
I said April. It's free admission. There's going to be door prizes, and we're trying to get the word out to get more people to come enjoy themselves.
It's one of my favorite shows because, one, year after year I see you folks, and it's kind of like after a while it's like old home week, but also, you know, for folks like me who collect Star Wars cards and other non-sport things, it's a show that's kind of pure bliss. And I think where, you know, in a show like this where it's like you may find what you want but it's spaced out, there you can go in a very relaxed environment, see the same folks, and you go like, you know what, I may take a flyer on it next year, but it's like, it's just so nice, but it's just pure concentrated goodness.
It is, and nowadays people are, you say non-sports and people are like, oh, Pokemon, and it's like not quite the same thing. So getting people to understand what true non-sport cards are is,
and game cards.
It's getting harder to explain what it is. You know, movie cards, TV shows, autograph cards, costume cards. Again, you say non-sports, they think gaming. We have both.
Exactly.
All right, and if they are coming to the Chicago Non-Sport Card Show, where can they find you? Or if you have another presence online anywhere, where can people find you?
We don't, but we hide it. I'll throw stuff on my Facebook, but seriously, just go to the Facebook page, Chicago Non-Sports Card and TCG Show, and it'll have all the pertinent information, even photos from the past show. And please come on out. It's free admission, door prizes, and a lot of card collectors do show up. And like yourself, it's fun to visit and just have a good time.
I'll be looking forward to seeing you there, and enjoy the rest of C2E2.
Thank you very much. You have a great one.
Nice talking.
Bye.
Hello, everybody. This is Tom Gross of Teachers in the Dungeon. You're listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
Well, there's no better person to help you navigate Artist Alley than my friend Carl Schmidt, Pilo64 on Instagram, one of my oldest and dearest friends here at C2, a great card collector, a great collector of art. Tell me, how have you been working Artist Alley today?
Same way as I always do, row by row. You pick an end, and then you start working your way down across the aisle. It's a lot bigger this year. They kicked out into the food court area that they had from last year, so it's good to see a lot of new artists here, and a lot of old-time artists that haven't come by in a while.
And I noticed, you know, like me, you're thinking like, oh, Friday is going to be the easier of days, but you had to say that the crowd has stepped up a bit this year.
Quite a bit. It is a Saturday crowd on a Friday.
So when you're going through, it's like, what did you kind of bring with you to sign, and who were some of the artists that you were kind of pegging that you're like, all right, I got to add them to the collection this year?
So I've got a couple projects I've been working on. The two of them are related to issue number 1 of the reboot of the Star Wars comic from 2015. I have a blank sketch cover that I've just been going around and having the different cover artists sign. So there's quite a few of them quite a few big names on that list. Some of them like to do little remarks or leave quotes on it, so it's a little unique project. And the other one was Marvel/Disney published a book a couple years later featuring all of the covers. So it's a hardcover book with spectacular artwork in it, dips back into the series from the 70s and 80s, and it also has the modern comics. And I've been going around and getting some of those same artists to sign both.
You're also no stranger to having, lugging stuff in here. So for the would-be, the new person or someone who hasn't done a whole lot in an artist alley, or they're bringing something for people to sign, what is some of the best advice you could give to bring your stuff here and make sure it gets home in one piece?
A lot of it has to do with making sure that large pieces stay flat, that things don't get crushed in your bag or crushed by others in crowds. But yeah, just protecting your stuff.
Now, also, by the way, what are some of the other things? Now, I know you spend predominantly most of your time in Artist Alley, but are there other things that you kind of poke your head in during this day of C2E2?
Yeah, some of the autographs. There's a lot of nostalgia here this time around, like the entire cast of The Breakfast Club, which was set in suburban Chicago. I believe that was March 24th, 1985 was the date of the movie, but even getting like Emilio Estevez, it threw me off a little bit because I kept on seeing Anaheim Ducks, the throwback Anaheim Duck hockey jerseys, and I didn't put it together that it was the Mighty Ducks, people showing out for him. Other than that, just keeping an eye on lines. Phil Lamar, who voices Kit Fisto in the Clone Wars, also does Hermes in Futurama. He does Samurai Jack, which is a great series if you haven't watched it. It's got a tie to Star Wars by being created by the same creator that did the first Clone Wars cartoon on Cartoon Network. The other one that I'm checking out his line that I'd like to see is probably Patton Oswalt. He voiced a character of mine that became a favorite of mine from a show called Happy. So Happy was about an imaginary friend. Christopher Maloney from the Law and Order fame plays like a washed-up detective cop, and his daughter's imaginary friend, which is voiced by Patton Oswalt, comes to get his attention when his daughter's in trouble. It's a real trippy series. It was on Sci-Fi, maybe a decade ago, but it's worth watching.
All right, and lastly, what do you think as far as the takeaway this year? Do you think it has grown in a great way? How have you seen C2 kind of grow over the years, and is it changing?
It's definitely changing. I think there's a lot more, especially in Artist Alley. It seems like they flipped a little bit this year, have less traditional artists, a little bit more craft makers, and I'll call it theme art. It isn't stuff that's based off of any licensed product. It is true original art, mashups, stuff like that. But yeah, man, I remember coming to the first one they had here where they were only using half the hall, and the biggest draw that year was Alex Ross, and he had a gigantic line compared to actual celebrity talent. And I've seen that blow up. You see a shift with them in terms of booking themes. The big themes, like I said, Breakfast Club, Lord of the Rings is a big one, Starship Troopers, RoboCop. There's just seems to be a shift there, but a lot of the anime stuff is still big, still strong. A lot of people still come out for it.
All right, Carl, I'm going to let you get back to Artist Alley, but if people want to check out some of the stuff that you've posted online, where can they find you?
On Instagram, it's Pileo64, Pileo64.
Carl, once again, great to run into you. Thanks for a little bit of the swag, and we'll be talking to you soon.
All right, thank you very much.
Hey, this is Carl LeClaire from the Wampa's Lair podcast, and you're listening to the Rebel Base Card podcast. Great pull, kid.
My name is Jared Nielsen.
And we are here. We're in the middle of the Ultraman card game booth. Can you give me the elevator pitch? What's this game all about?
Well, the 60th anniversary is next year, which is almost my anniversary. And we're celebrating the 60th year anniversary with the launch of the ultimate collectible card game that has been the great-great-grandfather of tokusatsu, which is the invention of the giant superhero and all of the kaiju. Every other show that you think of, Speed Racer or Kamen Rider, they've all derived from this first iteration of tokusatsu.
One of the things I loved is the quality of the cards. You ran us through a demo, but what I found also with the card game was fairly easy to pick up, by design, of course.
Well, the demo decks are designed to be suitable for young kids and for parents as well. As you know, I'm 55, so I actually watched the shows when I was a kid, but we now want the new kids to get involved in it. And so the demo decks are fairly straightforward and they're designed to be basic, but the new starter decks and the new booster packs have a whole lot more dimension to it. It makes it a lot more fun and a lot more interesting. So the complexity goes up depending on how much you invest in the game.
And, TCGs have had a very nice, history as well. You go back to Pokemon, you go back to Magic, but even like with the recent release of Star Wars Unlimited last year and kind of getting back into that frame, has Ultraman in its few releases, have they gotten back feedback from players, and what do people think about the game?
Well, the players that love Ultraman love anything that's Ultraman. The players that love TCGs, they like the game because it is a lot faster pace. You can play a hand. You've played one.
Yeah.
It plays very fast. It's very quick. With the extra cards, then it gets that extra depth. But it's not like you're going to sit there for 2 hours and wrangle over cards. It's really designed to be fast and fun, and to enjoy the artwork. And the artwork is the most amazing part of it. Most people don't realize, but the Japanese cards have Japanese artists, and many of the U.S. cards have U.S. artists who simply love tokusatsu.
And that's what I kind of love. I love putting artists to work. I love seeing, cards that have unique things. Can you tell me just quickly about some of the, the special pulls, the inserts? What kind of cards can people find when they're pulling some stuff from packs and boxes?
Well, the booster packs come with special rares, AP rares, triple rares. Some of them even have wet signatures on them from executives. I mean, there's all kinds of things in those booster packs that I couldn't even tell you because they're secret. I don't even know. But I will tell you, the last time I did a whole booster box, I was able to get an SP rare with a signature on it, and they're beautiful cards.
And just lastly, because I want to get you back to doing some demos, where can people find this game and how do they purchase?
UltramanTCG.com, and we have a special promotion for retailers. So if you're a retailer and you want us to send a rep to support the game, we have city reps in all the major metros across the United States who will come visit your store, run a game, and get your players excited about it. And we provide a clone store. So if you have Ultraman TCG as an online store, you can get your own clone store and sell the product yourself.
Jared, I want to thank you for the introduction to the game and a little bit of your time, and enjoy the rest of C2.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
This is Rodney Roberts, a.k.a. The Art Nerd.
With 2 R's in the word nerd.
And also of Meanwhile the Podcast, and you're listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
I am over here in the, I would say, author's alley, but I do like the fact that there's a section it's kind of earmarked for. So I would have to say, for someone like an independent creator like yourself, do you find maybe not like being crammed in Artist Alley a little better for you overall?
Yeah, I think having a section designed specifically for like prose authors is pretty cool, and it's on the way up to all of the interview panels and everything, so it brings a pretty steady flow of traffic. And so being separated, I think, was a pretty good decision, I think. This is my second year here, and I do prose novels, so comedic science fiction and hard-boiled urban fantasy, as well as comic books. So a mix of both.
So talk to me about Mandrill PI.
Sure. Mandrill PI is a hard-boiled urban fantasy set in a cartoon world about a primate private detective who solves supernatural mysteries. So kind of like Hellboy meets Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
And where did this start? Did it start from sketches? Did it start from just ideas for story? And who does the artwork and the writing and all that?
Sure. So I write it, and it started as my love letter to 80s and 90s cartoons and hard-boiled detective fiction. And my artist is a guy named Carlos Trigo out of Spain, and he's just ridiculously talented. And I met him on the Comic Book Collabs subreddit, and it's just been a working relationship that we've had for about 5 years. We've never met, but we've just been creating together for a good half decade now, and it's been an awesome relationship.
So in a collab like that, especially being an international one, how does it work? You send him stuff, he sends you back stuff, and then how do you get it printed, and how does he get compensated and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so we mostly communicate through email because there's a big time difference between us. And, I do the scripts, and then we communicate about what's in the script, what looks right versus what doesn't. He's had a lot of experience in the comics world, so sometimes I might have a panel description that, maybe the action will look better a different way, and I trust him and his instincts on that. And it's just been one of those things where we've built trust over the last half decade where we can almost, interpret each other's, thoughts without really getting too deep into the descriptors. But yeah, it's been a really great relationship.
One thing that I like about when someone produces like an independent book is that although you might have just finished it, that content has legs, and you're constantly reintroducing that to a new audience that has no idea until I walked up and saw a friendly face I talked to maybe 2 hours ago. But it is nice to kind of go back over, like, you may be on book 2, 3, or 4, but you're just as excited to talk about book 1 again.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things where doing it in both comics and prose novel form has allowed I have people who are fans who are just prose fans who have jumped into comics and vice versa. And so it's been a really cool mix of the two. And each project I put out in the series has pulled more people in from one side or the other, and it's been really cool.
And other than the odd breaks, do you get a break at C2 to get a kind of roam around, or are you pretty much set here?
I flew in from California by myself, so I'm kind of here at the table pretty much all weekend, so planning on checking out some of my friends over in Artist Alley either before or after the show, or if there's a lull. So.
And so people can find your work who aren't here at C2. Where can they find you and this cool stuff?
Sure. I've got a website, cbrimmage.com. CBRIMMAGE.com, and then I'm on Instagram as Chris_Brimmage author.
Well, thank you very much for giving me some time, and good luck with the rest of C2.
So, thanks so much, Craig. So good to meet you.
This is Brian Winerdy from the Talking Bay 94 podcast, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card podcast. Great pull, kid.
One of the things I like about going to cons is meeting folks, and then meeting folks and meeting folks. I'm here today with Ashley Popplewell, and you did some pretty rad sketches for Topps back in the day.
Yes.
First off, because I know you're here, you're selling a bunch of different things, but how did you get your start sketching sketch cards?
A friend of mine is a big collector and fan, and he saw some of the other artwork I was making and said, you could be working for these companies if you wanted to. And so I started looking into it and started with some smaller companies, eventually switched over to Topps, and really enjoyed working on a lot of the properties that they have.
One thing is kind of interesting, I know a lot of people kind of get their starts because someone may not be well versed with, like, say, Cryptozoic or some of the Upper Deck, but a lot of times those are companies that are kind of great because it kind of allows you to kind of get the process down, because it is very different than anything else you're probably working with.
Right. It's totally different in the media. Learning about sketch cards, trading cards, like how good you could be, like how much detail you could put into them, that they weren't actually just quick sketches. That's more the style that I like to work in. So if you see my sketches from older Top sets especially, they're just very heavily detailed, lots of layers of color, because I didn't know when to stop. I just kept going.
That is something where it's like when you're looking at, you may like, would you normally do like the real heavy loads or a small load? What would be like an average size load of cards?
That's a good question. When I first started doing stuff for Topps specifically, my first set was 200 cards. And I remember it was 100 regular Star Wars cards, and then they did a special edition for Target where they were all in red. Like every sketch was red. And so I did 100 that were red and 100 that were full color. Yeah.
Now, is Star Wars something that you kind of like, it's like one of your jams, or is it just like, I liked it and I got the work?
I enjoy it. I like a lot of different kinds of fandoms. The best thing about Star Wars in particular is that like there's so much content. Like originally it was like, okay, we want you to draw specifically from Empire, for example. Right. And now when they do sets, or like most recently when they've done sets, it's like any Star Wars property. So you can be drawing from The Mandalorian, you can be drawing from the shows, you can be drawing from the animated stuff, the Lego stuff. Like, you know, it just depends on what they're asking for the set. There's just a lot of source material to work from.
Yeah, speaking from, what is your kind of like go-to as far as like reference picks? Do you like, all right, we snake them off of YouTube, or do we get pictures from books? Like, what helps you set up a character that maybe you haven't done?
If I haven't done the character, I typically will go to their wiki, because there's like fans of that character who have posted pictures. Sometimes I'll use cosplay photos if someone's like really into a particular character that it's hard to find photos of, but there's really good references for people who are into that character and they do the to the nines cosplay of it. Typically I'll ask their permission to use them as a reference, and they're jazzed about it. They're like, yeah, I'm going to be in a Star Wars set, okay.
Oh, that's awesome. So let me ask you this. Do you still do cards, or how long was your era doing cards?
I do cards pretty rarely. My maximum now is 10 cards. So recently, the most recent work I've been doing has been for Rittenhouse Archives. Oh, okay. They do a little bit of a different style of work, whereas Topps is more like volume, lots and lots of cards, lots and lots of packs. I do more like bespoke, smaller sets these days, if I do any sets at all. Yeah.
As we're kind of coming down towards the end of day one of C2, what are some things, I know, like I said, you've done these shows lots of times, but is this show a little different, or what's been kind of going on today that you noticed?
I would say this year it's very busy on a Friday for the first time in several years, where it's like, oh yeah, there's 2 more full days of this, you know. Lots of people, lots of cosplay even, big families here. It's a great vibe today for sure.
Just seeing that interaction, we paused for a second, but just seeing that interaction, I like it because you have like many things there, but they're on a lot of different levels. Yes. And I also love the patience, because I think she was, you know, the little girl was like, clearly like she liked it, she was engaged, but needed that kind of time. And in a space like this, I like that you also give that person that kind of time.
Yes, I think that's super important. I'm a big fan of like Americans with Disabilities Act advocacy, and I feel like part of that is patience, like a big part of it. If I'm not in a big hurry, I don't have a huge line, you know, I'll let them take their time, and then they can decide and not feel pressured. Right. Or maybe like they don't want to even have the sale because they're like, oh, I don't like this energy, this sort of like forceful energy. I've definitely known other artists who will tell people just to get out from in front of their tables after a little while, which is not my vibe.
So like, how do you keep yourself pumped throughout the day?
Therapy. This is my advocacy for therapy as well. Please go to therapy. Figure your stuff out.
Hey, I'm going to let you go, because what's great is I'm just seeing, even at the end of the day, I'm seeing still a lot of people, not only for Friday, but crowding around your booth. Quick, where could folks find you online if they want to check out what you got? Okay,
you can check me out at www.ashleypopplewell.com, or if you're on Instagram, at @ampopplewell.
Ashley, it was a pleasure meeting you, and thank you very much for giving me a little time today.
Nice to meet you also. Thank you.
Hi there. This is PT McNiff from the Long Take Review podcast, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card podcast. Great pull, kid.
Okay. The one thing I like about coming to C2 is that a lot of times, just like you're next to Daniel Guvar here, but on the other side was your biggest fans, Bill and Celeste, that I was talking to earlier, and they could not stop talking about you, the project you're working on, and the amazing painting by your father.
Yes.
That's a tall order.
Father's art, not my art.
Exactly.
Sure.
No, but first, I wanted to say, fascinated about this comic that you are working on, this passion project.
The quick elevator pitch is a bit of Band of Brothers meets a little bit of a splash of Schindler's List. But it's about the segregated Japanese American battalion that fought in World War II while their families were still in the internment camps, right? Which is kind of a crazy thing to think about. To choose to fight for a country that doesn't want to fight for you at all, right? Not only that, but they ended up fighting for just under 2 years in Italy and in France. And in those 2 years, they earned over 18,000 medals for 10,000 soldiers, right? Like, to put that in context, to this day, they are the most decorated unit of soldiers in U.S. history, and they only fought for like 20 months of World War II.
That's insane. Now, also, you hadn't been doing this online, but you are transforming it to a comic. Can you just tell a little bit about the process and where you're at right now?
Yeah. So I have been, when I first wanted to get the story out there, and after doing some research, the underlying goal of the whole thing was to make sure that they weren't fully forgotten, and to like make sure that a younger generation, new generation can have easy access. So the best way for me to do that is not worry about sort of the publishing aspect and the printing and the inventory, and to just simply put it online. So on Webtoons and sites like Tapas, where you can read comics for free in sort of vertical fashion. So you go load it up on your phone, you read it vertically. So the initial artwork and the story was kind of generated to just scroll vertical. And now I'm at the point where I am trying to translate that, transform it into sort of more traditional format where you have pages and you're reading left to right instead of up and down. And so that's been a very interesting process, because while I was preparing for it, none of my original artwork is in panels. I kind of approached it very much from a filmmaking process, where it's like, okay, I'm going to film these scenes, and then later on, I'm going to edit it, time it, add some special effects if need to, film some extra scenes to make it make sense if it comes out that the story's not coming through, but tell it sort of that way. So I have all of these just pieces of art, like scenes, and I can either arrange it vertically, and now I'm in the process of rearranging it in sort of left to right and put it in. My hope is currently I have about 100 plus pages of layout to do for printing, and by sometime the summer of 2025, I hope to have it ready for print in a graphic novel. I would like to go directly to graphic novels instead of doing issues. I feel like the story should be more cohesive. But over the past year or two of doing more research on this, the project's also ballooned from maybe 6 or 7 issues, or about 1 graphic novel's worth of story, to about 3 graphic novels. So we have volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, and who knows, maybe a volume 4. There's just so much. When you have 18,000 medals, each of them has a story, right? And so my job is to figure out, what do I leave behind? More so, what do I leave on a cutting room floor?
What are some of the reactions you have gotten? Have you been able to speak with family members and all that? What have you gotten back from them?
Yeah, well, that was one of the first things, because when I first started the project, it's in the confines of my own studio and in my own little cave, so I didn't know what the impact was until I started putting it out there, and it started getting passed around communities that I didn't really have access to before. And the response from that community is what made me redouble my efforts in research and giving it more serious thoughts. So I have spoken to family members. I have gotten sort of the blessings of the 100th Veterans Organization, which was the Hawaii Japanese, which made up a large contingent. Talked to Japanese American Veterans Association. I've traveled to France and talked to these small towns that remember not the fact that the Allies liberated them, not the fact that the U.S. liberated them, the fact that the Japanese American 442nd liberated them, and they still celebrate it to this day. They have a parade on the day they were liberated by them, right? Where here, many of us don't even know they exist. right? To them, it's an annual celebration.
It's going to be so much fun to kind of watch the progress of this, and also to know that, you know, we think of like comic conventions, comic books as like it's a very linear format. You read from page 1 to here. Here you have something that kind of started digitally, but you can take that and work it in many different ways, including print. And what I think you end up finding is like the content is what ends up selling it, but it's so great that you can kind of meet the needs of whoever's wanting to ingest it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like one of the things I'm doing, I'm lucky that next month I'm actually going to have a first gallery show of the artwork from this in Denver. And one of the things I'm going to be doing is since these are distinct pieces of art and they're not just pages and panels, I can take some of these art pieces and create sort of stations and be like, okay, here's how we'll tell this story in about 16 stations as they walk through the exhibit, right? And so we'll have scenes of Pearl Harbor, and I can take all the artwork separately about Pearl Harbor and talk about that importance, the first camps or the first people going in, training camp and all that stuff. So breaking it apart, whether you're walking through a gallery exhibit and creating a story, putting it in print, telling a story, or vertically online and reading on your phone, like it's all been a very challenging and sort of fun journey into what does storytelling really mean. I've even experimented a little bit on sort of video and you know, having someone voice over some of that stuff too, with just static images, kind of changing at the right time.
That's incredible. And it's great to also see at C2 because a lot of this, when you've got like a work in progress and you can kind of show it's like this content can just live and then it'll kind of evolve and move with you as you move through all your other cons. Just lastly, because I want to get you back to it as we kind of wrap up tonight, we've got a special piece over there. I see a couple familiar faces. We see Mando and Grogu. Got to tell me about this.
Okay. So about 7-8 years ago, my dad retired as an emergency physician, and he decided to kind of follow me in the arts, and he took up a hobby of painting. And every time I would go home, like the roles were reversed for a little while, right? He'd be like, "Oh, hey, what do you think of this?" And I'd be like, "Oh, that's nice." And he was like, No, like, how can I make this better? And so I would have to critique the artwork of my dad. And then when I saw that he was kind of serious about it, I actually do an annual course at the workshop. It's called Fantasy Art Workshop in Milwaukee. And I bring my dad along so he can meet these like Joe Jusko was the guest of honor last year, right? So for my dad to like see Joe Jusko's oil painting and talk about his process. And so over the years, I brought him to this, and he's gotten to introduce to some important people in the comic book convention industry, like Mike Negan, who puts together the St. Jude's charity auction for ReedPop, New York Comic Con, C2E2. And Mike Negan saw what my dad was doing. He's like, "Hey, would you ever want to donate a piece for St. Jude's?" And my dad, as a retired doctor, you know, knows the importance of St. Jude's Children's Hospital, and was like, "I would love to." Although it took a little convincing for him. He was like, "Oh, but my stuff is not good." But he was like, eventually he was like, "Okay, I will do something." And so he goes off and paints this wonderful, vibrant colors, where I'm trying to explain it through here, of Mando and Grogu walking out of this like rainbow of violets and scarlets and stuff like that. So, and I see more people pausing to take pictures of it than like look at it. They'll walk past my table and they're like, "Oh, I gotta take a picture of that." I've got a Mando too. Yeah, I got a Mando too. Like, look at my stuff. But so always trying to show me up. You know, the joke that I have right now is that the tree doesn't grow far from the apple. So, but it'll be up for sale. He'll be actually here tomorrow, and hopefully he'll see his piece get sold, and I think that'll be a big step for him in his own creative artistic journey. And you know,
he's gonna have a booth right next to you. You're gonna be like, "Oh, come on."
Yeah. Well, yeah. Stop hogging my limelight. I'm trying to do something here.
All right, just so we can let people know where they can find you and all this rundown where they can find you, man.
Yeah, you can find me on online by looking up Tony Moy, M-O-Y. Tony_Moy on Instagram and many of the social medias. But specifically, if you want to find out a little bit more about the 442nd, you can go to the website, the number 4, spell out the word 40, and then you have 2ndsecond.com, 442nd. And you can find links where you can read it online and see what the watercolor comic about a bit of hidden history is all about.
Tony, it was a pleasure meeting you and finding about this. What a great way to kind of wrap down as we're seeing the sun start to set on us. So it's perfect. But anyway, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Glad to meet you here, and see you next year.
This is Daz Davis, and you are listening to the Rebel Base Card Podcast. Great pull, kid.
I'd like to check out, refuel my ship, prepare for my immediate departure.
Well, I don't know about you folks, but I'm pretty beat. As we are seeing the sun literally set on day 1 of C2E2. Unfortunately, my only day, but I think that's very apropos to say it's been an incredibly full day. I'm going to have to go back through the many interviews I did today. I would have to say, as Nicole from Peace, Love, and Fandoms is sitting next to me, I would have to say that I think I came here thinking I would probably get about 5 or 6. I probably have 3 times that. But that's how this show goes. You meet one person, they know somebody, they know somebody, they know somebody, and then you end up, you want to know everybody's story at the end. And I would have to say the nicest part may have been the panel, that class where Chad the Bird, who I watch online on YouTube, is hysterical, and to see a live performance, it was a bit surreal. But I would also have to say that be able to sit down for an hour was pretty amazing, because I think after I had done a number of interviews, it was like early afternoon, and I'm like, I'm tired. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I've got to sit down. I've got to get some water. I got to have a snack. I know I'm going to eat later, so I'm going to make that up. But as we were saying earlier in the podcast, you have to kind of give yourself these breaks, because otherwise, this is just day 1. Tomorrow is going to be more people. It's going to be more crowded. And if you're doing all 3 days, and if you're not used to the kind of pounding, especially on this concrete, you're going to burn out. And then it's going to be like, well, I spent all this money to get here, and I'm doing all these things, but I'm not having a good time. So if you make it here, whether it is the rest of C2 or your next con, I would say, like I said, a lot of it is the same, but still prep for it. Know your routes, know your traffic, know your time, and know your limits, I think is the key. And just know what you're capable of and give yourself time to enjoy it. So anyway, I am going to sign off here at the McCormick place. I can hear some folks behind me that's going, yeah, like me. I think it's time. So I just want to thank all my guests for being on the program. I'm going to let Card Squadron take it out as I work my way out of the parking garage, and we'll talk soon.
The Rebel Base Card Podcast focuses on cards, collecting, and the Star Wars community, and appreciates you coming along for the ride.
If you have any feedback for this episode, you can reach out to the program in a number of ways. You can leave a comment on the Instagram post for this episode. You can also DM Greg on Instagram at Rebel Base Card.
Make sure to also follow the Rebel Base Card on Twitter and Facebook at Rebel Base Card. If you want, you can send an email to greg@rebelbasecard.com.
And you can find show notes for this and all episodes on the website rebelbasecard.com. In the Star Wars Card Trader app, and just about every other one, you can find Greg at CornFedTech.
The Rebel Base Card uses the hashtag Card Squadron as a way to alert friends about cool cards and recent drops in the galaxy far, far away. It's a great way to bring our community a little bit closer together and help one another finish our sets in time. We collect, communicate, and commiserate. Well, at least when we run out of credits or crystals to spend on our digital collections. Join the fun, even if all the other cool squadron names were already taken. And remember, we collect as one, and would be honored if you join us.
And if you are a sketch card artist, or Star Wars artist or collector, cosplayer, and want to talk about your work, your craft or passion, drop Greg a line. I'm sure he'd love to hear your story. You can also help the show by leaving a comment or review on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you got this episode.
Otherwise, the mission is clear. Keep those cards out of the hands of the Empire, and the Rebel Base Card will return soon.
This podcast is not affiliated in any way with Topps, Disney, or Star Wars, nor is it endorsed by Disney or Lucasfilm, and is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. All names and sounds and any other related items are properties of their respective trademarks and or copyright holders here in the U.S. and abroad. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com.
That's it.